devices I'm using, whatever I'm testing at the time. But I am constantly asked by people, which Puffcode device should I get? And look, I get it. It's the biggest company. They have some of the best devices, some of the most marketed and most well-known devices. So I'm going to break down from my perspective, because I've used everything that they make just about, with the exception of the Plus, but that's one of the more out-of-date items, and I don't know if anybody is considering that right now. But I should have an individual review for each of these on my website, but I'm just going to talk about each one. I didn't think I was going to make this video, but you know what? Here I am making this video. So first on the list, let's just start with like the lowest cost, right? I'll talk about when they came out and how good they are versus each other, but the lowest cost one is the newest device, is the Pivot, which is $130. It features no
He said 130
no glass
bucks.
out of the box. It's basically just a pen, right? I'm going to omit showing each of these devices to hopefully avoid getting flagged. But you guys know what these look like. These are the most marketed devices. If you don't, just go to their website. They're all right there. But the Pivot is their, I would say, most entry-level device and their most portable. It'll slip easy into your pocket. I've personally taken that with me on a few adventures, and it works out pretty well. I do have a coupons code over at, like,
see how you doing.
you know, head shop. But again, I'll put a link maybe breaking down each device. But the Pivot being their newest device makes a lot of people think it's the best, and it's honestly, it's really good. For the price that you're paying and the performance that you're getting, it is really good. I think my biggest issue, or some people's biggest issue, is that the battery life isn't as good as some of the other devices, but it's actually pretty good when you compare it to other brands and other devices that are the same or in the same category. It's actually very good, especially for the price. Now, the Pivot has a small chamber. A few of the devices just have a smaller chamber. I think the Proxy is pretty small, the new Peak is pretty small, and then the Pivot, it's got to be the smallest. But it can still handle like a decent amount. I think one people's issue is they're used to scooping big old globs. So when they get a device with a smaller chamber like that, they just start pulling reclaim through or unmelted wax. I've heard a few people complain, oh, my Pivot's filled with reclaim, and it's like, you're putting too much in there and you're sucking on it too hard. I don't know what to tell you. It's too big and you're sucking on it too hard. I would say if you don't have any devices, you're not sure if you want one, you're just trying to test the waters, that's probably the best one to get. The Pivot's probably the best entry level. If you're not looking for the biggest hits or the most accessories to go with it, Pivot is...
Shout out to Cupins. You know, you can go check him out on Twitch, like he said. He's on there every night. Or you can go check him out on Rumble. Shout out to Rumble. You know, it's better if you go on Rumble. I'd rather promote people's Rumble. But then again, he's also on YouTube. So, you know, wherever you want to watch him, watch him. But you know how we say, we introduce people on YouTube and then we get you on other platforms. Shout out to the other platforms because, hey, Rumble will monetize you faster than YouTube. But, you know, we got to buy me a coffee anyways. So, shout out to having options.
It's a great option. Now, next, I think we're going to go in price. The Pivot's the newest one. The second newest one is also the second cheapest one. It's the new Peak. Not the Pro, but the new Peak. And it's about $220. I think it comes in a few different colors. You don't have the big 3D XL chamber. You don't have the app connectivity. You don't have, like, the super cool RGB lights lighting up the glass. But you can do, like, 20 to 30 really good hits. Now, I like the Peak because if you get it and you want to upgrade to the Pro later, you can use the same glass if you end up getting a cool piece of glass, or if you just need a backup glass cone or whatever. The glass is interchangeable between the Peak and the Peak Pro. The atomizers aren't, but the glass is, which is cool. None of the devices have an interchangeable atomizer. They each have their own, which some people don't like, but I think it makes it a little bit easier. And some of the atomizers are just way cheaper than the other ones. Like the Peak Pro atomizer costs more than if you need to replace your Pivot atomizer. Now, I think if you're considering the Peak, you've decided you don't want to spend the extra couple hundo and get the Pro. You don't need the app connectivity. You don't need the larger chamber. You don't need the RGB lights. You just need a bunch of pretty solid hits. I think it's a really good option. I really liked mine. I tested out 3 different Peaks, and everybody that I let use one was very impressed with how it hit, because, you know, if they've already used the Pro, they're like, oh wow, it's almost as good, right? I'd say the Pro, now that it comes with the 3D XL, it's just that much better. When it didn't come with the 3D XL, the performance was kind of close. I think they just had no choice but to include the 3D XL because otherwise you wouldn't want the Pro. But for $220, the new Peak is a really good option. It does more